You learned in the episode 1 how a scientific article looks like. Now I want to tell you what happens to the article just before it is published. Episode 2, the peer review explained. Welcome to the episode 2 of the Jumbo Science. I'm so happy to be here now to explain to you how the mechanism of peer review works. I'd start by reading a book. It is an Italian book written by Alberto Mantovani. Alberto Mantovani is a scientist, researcher. He works in immunology and in pathology, and he is probably one of the most cited and one of the most well-recognized Italian experts in this field. In his book, Don't Be Afraid to Dream, Decalogue for Aspiring Scientists, he wrote, "The mechanism used by science to defend herself from fraud and mistakes, so the filters that scientific journals use to publish only studies that are error-proof, is called peer review. Before being printed, scientific work are sent to 2 or 3 experts called referee, and they have to evaluate the work in an anonymous way and without compensation. Evaluation, the critical evaluation and independent from the editor and referees, is more severe if the journal is more prestigious. This is the statement that I like the most. The peer review is like democracy. It is a non-perfect system and it is perfectible, but it is the best that we have. So, I don't want to stay here and blah 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 just speaking. I would like to show you in a cooler way, I'd say. Before starting, I fully disclose that I don't want to make a joke of anyone. Instead, I truly agree with the words of Mantovani. The purpose is just to have a fun way to let you understand how peer review works. Of course, what I am about to show doesn't really happen in person. Nowadays, everything is online, and the exchanges that I'm showing you are made by written communication that happen also from different countries around the world. So are you ready? Let's go! Hi, this is a researcher. Yes, like me, for example. He worked at this project for almost 1 year. He didn't work alone. He had some other collaborators that helped him, so he will be the first author of this paper, while the other collaborators that helped him will be recognized as co-author as well in the research article. He also wrote the manuscript, so all the things that you saw in the episode 1 are now fully ready, fully prepared. Abstract, introduction, material method, results, discussion, statement, references, everything is completed. The work is ready potentially to be published. The manuscript underwent a complete internal revision from all the other co-authors and collaborators that participated in the work, and the article is then sent to the scientific journal. and I'd like to submit this paper to your journal for your consideration. I hope that you can consider my article. Hopefully you can find it suitable for publication in your journal. And well, thank you for your consideration, and I look forward for hearing from you soon. Thank you. This is the editor. He's an expert of the field, he's an academic. Sometimes there is not just one editor, but sometimes there is a board of editors, and he has the responsibility of all this process.
Thank you very much for submitting your manuscript to our journal. I am going to read your manuscript to evaluate it for the suitability for our journal. I will let you know in a very few days. Thank you very much.
At this point, the editor has two choices. First choice the editor can make is this.
Dear researcher, thank you very much for the manuscript you submitted. I read it and unfortunately it doesn't reach the suitable standard for publication in our journal, nor to even be considered for being submitted to other external reviewers. And this is for several reasons. First of all, that the manuscript is not in line with the guidelines and with the scope of our journal, but also because of several other critics that I have evidenced. So I really regret to inform you, my boy, that your manuscript has been rejected.
No! And here comes the suffering, the frustration, because you worked to that research for almost a year and you then got it rejected. This unfortunately can happen. It doesn't mean that you are not a good researcher, it just means that that specific article was not suitable. And yes, this can be one of the most frustrating things of this work. An editorial rejection is a rejection of the paper, so the paper will not be published in the journal. The editorial rejection means that the article has not undergone the peer review process. But there is also another possible outcome. Hi, I wrote this manuscript and I would that your journal consider this manuscript for publication.
Thank you very much, my boy. I read it carefully, the manuscript that you and your research group prepared, and I have to say that it sounds for now suitable for our journal. But now I have to send the manuscript to some external reviewers that will read and give me their comments about your paper.
In this case, the editor sends the article to 2 or 3 external reviewers. Now the process needs about, I'd say 1, 2, 3 months, something like that. And the reviewers have the possibility to read truly and express their comments. The reviewers are usually anonymized. Nowadays there are some journals that are more for transparency and make the names of reviewers available, but so far most of the journals use anonymized reviewers. Watch out! Reviewers are not necessarily top experts that are superior to the research that is trying to publish. No, the mechanism is called peer review because it's a review made of peers. So they are maybe just other experts, other scientists that work in that specific field. And so, as external experts, they give their comment, their suggestion, their critics to the work. This is very important. I had the occasion to read your paper and I have to underline different considerations. First of all, the major critic that I would underline is how can this be possible that you did not even include a control group. I mean, a group of controls, or at least a population of reference, should be always included in this type of study, for which, for me, this paper is not acceptable in the present form for publication. So, I read the manuscript and I found several criticisms that, for my opinion, for what I am expert in, I think that this is not suitable for the publication in this journal. Super critical point that you did not include a control group. I don't understand why in the material method section you describe that you use this specific instrument for this analysis. I mean, I am an expert in this field, so I can clearly tell you that this specific instrument is not suitable for this type of analysis. You should have used these other instruments instead. For me, this paper is not publishable because of this measure critic.
Dear researcher, after having received the comments and evaluations from the reviewers, I am here to communicate the final decision on your manuscript. I regret to inform you that your manuscript has been rejected. No!
Here comes again an incredible frustration, because not only you worked for almost a year, you wrote the manuscript, you waited for the comments from reviewers, and then you got it rejected. I felt this, unfortunately, but this can happen, can or cannot be part of the job. In this case, the editor has rejected the manuscript after seeing the comments of the reviewers. The options available now are various, so you can not submit in theory to the same journal, but you can try with another journal. It's not, pay attention, it's not just let's try with another journal, because otherwise the peer review system doesn't make sense, does it? But if the researcher doesn't want to give up and feel that those data are valid to be published, the researcher should follow the comments of the reviewers to improve the experiments, to improve the statistical data, to improve the written manuscript, and then after doing that, so after maybe other months of work, the researcher can then publish the paper to another journal, for example. Hi, I wrote this manuscript, and I would that your journal consider this manuscript for publication.
Thank you very much, my boy. I have to send the manuscript to some external reviewers.
You used this specific statistical approach, but this specific statistical approach is not suitable used in this way for this type of population. I would also underline that the introduction is not clear and doesn't not allow other readers to properly understand the aims of your study. And also in the discussion section, it's true that you have to give your opinion, but you did not mention some other important studies in the topic. I'd suggest you to at least include a limitation paragraph in your discussion in which you underline all the limitations of your study. So I suggest the editor to carefully consider these my opinions carefully before considering your manuscript for further publication in the journal. For me, it's not clear why in the abstract you did not speak about these specific results that you report in the result section. So if you want to stress that the result is this, and I think this is an important point that you should focus the attention, you should definitely report this result in the abstract. This is super important in my opinion. Also, I would suggest you to revise a bit your English, because there are some grammar errors in the manuscript that I suggest you to reconsider.
Dear researcher, after reading the comments from the external reviewers, I'm here to tell you that I might consider your article for publication, but only and only after some revisions that I will ask you to do to your paper. In particular, I'd like to ask you to improve your manuscript following the comments of the reviewers, and also to provide answers to each of those points, so you can tell your opinion about each comment that reviewers gave to you.
In this case, the editor didn't reject the article, but didn't publish the article as well. The editor asked to the researcher to perform some corrections, some revisions. Now again, the researcher has worked to the article, the researcher has responded to all the comments made by the viewers. To some they agree, to some they not, and the researcher just wrote what he agrees or not in those comments, and also he submitted a revised version of the manuscript. Hi, first of all, really, and I'm super honest, really thank you for the comments and the judgments of the external reviewers. Really, they were really helpful to help me in improving my manuscript. I mean, yes, after your suggestion, I needed to repeat one of the experiments, and then I also needed to do again the statistical analysis, and so I needed to rewrite most of the manuscript, and this took me several other months. But now I think that thanks to your suggestions, the manuscript has reached an improved level, and now the manuscript, in my opinion, is suitable to be published in your journal. So I am sending my manuscript again to you for your consideration, and I hope that you can now consider for your publication. So thank you very much for your consideration. And
dear researcher, thank you very much for submitting again your manuscript. Now I'm going to read it again, and if I think it's appropriate, I will have one of the reviewer read again the manuscript. So I will then let you know the final outcome.
I had the occasion to read again your paper. In particular, I saw all your efforts that you did for improving the paper. In particular, I observed that you conducted analysis. I would add that I noted that you reperformed completely the statistical analysis, changing your methodology, and now with these methodologies that you used for the statistical elaboration, and also considering all the revisions that you made to the text, I'd say that I can suggest to the editor to accept your article for publication.
Dear researcher, after considering your paper, and after read it, and after read it again after your modifications, and after reading the several comments of the external reviewers, I am here now to communicate to you my final decision. Your paper can now be accepted to our journal.
And here comes the joy. This is one of the most rewarding part of this job. The joy, the pleasant emotion of having finally your work publicly available for the whole scientific community. This is an amazing feeling that we as researchers feel when our paper is finally, after all this severe process, accepted. And we can divide this in actually two. They can be major revisions or minor revisions. Major revisions, like in this case, are when the reviewer is asked to completely rewrite entire sections, or maybe to perform again some statistical analysis or some experiments. While also they can be minor revisions, so the only revisions asked are just the correction of maybe some formal in English, or maybe some minor mistakes that have been made in the manuscript. And finally, there is also the case where your article, after submitting to the editor and after the revisions of the external reviewers, the editor can also decide to accept it as it is, without any other corrections. It has never happened to me, at least some minor revisions has been always asked, but still, this is something that can happen. One last thing for this episode, there are now available preprints. What is a preprint? A preprint is the form of the manuscript, so prepared, at the beginning, so just before the peer review process, so it's still a definitive and complete research article that is published before the peer review process. So watch out! Usually it is reported, so it is clearly stated this article is a preprint, it has not undergone the peer review process, so watch out to this. It's very important that I don't judge anything, it's still a possibility, but just pay attention to this. The preprints were particularly useful and particularly used, especially since the start of the pandemic, because the pandemic was a situation of emergency, and in an emergency don't have the time to wait 2 or 3 months for this peer review process. Scientists need to give information each other as fast as possible. Thank you very much for made to the end of the video. I'd like to ask you to remain a few minutes more for the post-credit scene, where I will tell you 2 acknowledgements, and in particular, following one of them, I will give you an additional note to the episode 1. And I also ask you to keep following me for the 3rd episode that will be released probably next month, hopefully. And remember, science is sublime! Thank you very much to Francesco Scala. He was a mate when I was an actor in theater in Italy, and he watched the introductory video, and right after having watched it, he sent me a long text with a lot of suggestions to how to improve my acting skills. I have not followed all the suggestions yet, but still I will try to implement them throughout the next episodes as much as possible. The second acknowledgement goes to Elena Vignetti. She also was very kind some times ago to point me out the advantages and especially the disadvantages of doing a PhD. She also has a PhD, but well, I'm here also with a postdoc, so she also shared a very interesting comment. During the episode 1, I delivered my opinion about the private funding of research. It is my opinion, I'm still proud of it, but Elena, she said that also in academic system there is a bias. Academic system, we as academics are pushed to publish as much as possible, because if we as public researchers want to advance in careers, we have to produce science, we have to produce scientific paper, for instance. So this pressure can lead to a bias. Science is made by humans, so yes, that's sure, for sure. See you soon.